right. So have you ever like poured resin into a mold and like you think you've got it perfect.
Yeah.
And then it dries and you have just a ton of air bubbles in there.
Oh, yeah. It's the worst.
It's the absolute worst.
Yeah.
I mean, so today we are doing a deep dive on how like a tool from like a completely different industry.
Oh, wow.
Is like changing the game in the resin casting world.
Okay.
We're looking at some marketing material from Bullows, and it's all about their pressure feed tanks.
Okay.
PFTs.
Gotcha.
So these things are normally used for painting.
Interesting.
But they Bullows figured out a way to adapt them to be used for resin casting.
Cool.
And it's like really, really cool stuff.
I mean, it really shows you how solutions can kind of come from anywhere. Like you wouldn't expect a painting tool to be used in resin casting.
Exactly.
But it just, opens up your mind to thinking in different ways.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if you haven't really gotten into resin casting before, essentially what you're doing is pouring a liquid resin into a mold and then letting it harden to make like a solid object.
Yeah. I've seen some pretty cool stuff made with resin.
Oh, yeah.
Like jewelry and art pieces, even like prototypes and industrial tooling. It's super versatile.
It is really cool.
Yeah.
But there are some like real challenges to getting it right.
Oh, absolutely. Like getting a perfect result is tough.
Yeah.
And the Bullows material really focuses on 3 of the biggest challenges.
Okay.
First, you have, like you were saying, those air bubbles.
Yeah.
Tiny little imperfections that can totally like weaken your final product.
Yeah.
And just make the surface uneven.
It is so frustrating.
It's like when you try to frost a cake perfectly and you get all those little air bubbles in the frosting.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same kind of problem.
Yeah, it totally ruins it.
Totally.
So what about like
Well, the second like challenge is making sure that resin is evenly distributed in the mold.
Okay, yeah, especially if it's like a really intricate mold.
Exactly. Like if you've got all those little nooks and crannies, you really got to make sure that resin is flowing consistently.
Right.
So it reaches every single part.
And hardens uniformly.
Yeah. Otherwise, you end up with weak spots.
Right.
Or inconsistencies in the final product.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so then like the third challenge that they talk about is...
Let me guess, controlled application.
Yeah.
Because you don't want that resin like spilling everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Or hardening before it's even reached all parts of the mold.
Well, like precision is super key.
Precision is key, yeah.
Okay, so this is where the Bullows PFT comes in.
Okay.
It's like they looked at a tool from a painter's like workshop and we're like, wait a minute.
We can use this for resin.
Yeah.
Smart.
So they have these tanks and like they range in size from like 9 liters.
Wow.
All the way up to like 90 liters.
That's a big difference.
I know, it's wild.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if you're working on a small project or if you're like running a huge production.
Yeah. There's a PFT out there for you.
Yeah, and they come in mild steel or stainless steel.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so you can choose like the material that works best for you and your resin type.
Yeah, you don't want any like weird reactions between the resin and the tank.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so like how do these PFTs actually like solve those resin casting challenges?
Okay.
Like starting with the air bubbles.
Right. So one of the key things is that these tanks have a pressure regulator.
Okay.
And it basically acts like cruise control for your resin flow.
Okay.
Keeps the pressure nice and constant during the whole casting process.
Gotcha.
And that's what stops the air bubbles from forming.
So it's just like a nice smooth flow.
Exactly. No hiccups.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
What about like getting the resin into those hard to reach places in the mold?
That's where the pressurized system really does its magic.
Okay.
It makes sure that the resin flows evenly and uniformly.
Okay.
So even the most like intricate molds are totally filled.
Yeah. So it's kind of like if you were trying to fill up a maze with water. You need something to kind of push that water all the way through.
Exactly. Like a little pump.
Ah.
Gently pushing it through all the twists and turns.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then I guess like having different tank sizes is really useful depending on how big your project is.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Like I was saying earlier, the versatility is awesome.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can choose between mild steel and stainless steel means you can pick the perfect tank to match your resin.
And that helps prevent corrosion too, right?
Absolutely. And then extends the life of your tank.
Yeah.
Which is always good.
So it's like not just about solving these challenges, but it's about like making the whole process just better.
Exactly. More efficient and productive.
Yeah.
Bullows really hits home the point that like their PFTs are designed to minimize your downtime, optimize how much resin you use,
Oh, yeah.
and ultimately speed up production.
Nice.
And when you get consistent results with the PFT, you're saving time and money because you're not having to redo things or fix mistakes.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. So they took something that was made for one thing.
Yeah.
And they were like, no.
We can make this work for resin casting.
Totally.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It really makes you wonder what other kind of tools are out there that we could be using for totally different purposes.
Right. Like, what if the secret to, like, a medical breakthrough is hidden in, like, a tool used for farming?
Who knows?
It's wild to think about all the possibilities and connections out there.
Right. Like, we don't even know.
Yeah, just waiting to be discovered.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Well, this has been another deep dive.
Always a pleasure.
Thanks for listening.
See you next time.